the Always Believe house. Ho, 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 ho. Today we're going to have a rockin' fun time because we're going to solve quadratics by taking square roots. Yesterday we solved quadratics by factoring. Remember, when you solve, you're finding out where the parabola crosses the x-axis. So up at the top, let's do this real quick. Write down x minus 4 times x plus 4. The zeros would be what? Positive 4 would be positive 4 and negative 4. Notice the numbers are the same, but the signs are different, right? Now then, if we were to multiply this, we would get x squared minus 16. The middle term would cancel out, right? So on problems that do not have, remember, ax squared plus bx plus c, that's the standard form. If you take out the b, you can get the answer with the square root, okay? Now then, let's look at x squared, and we'll write this down over here. X squared minus 16 equals 0. If I were to move the 16 over, I would get x squared equals 16, and I could square root both of those. The answer not only would be 4, but it would be a positive and negative 4. So that's the way you write both of them. You'll just put plus or minus. So on these problems, the bx term won't be there. If you study this, the vertex will be on the y-axis, the parabola will open up or down, and the zeros will be the exact same thing but opposites, okay? So let's get rocking and rolling. So on the first one right here, our n squared's equal to 1, and I'm going to go down and do the odds with you. So all we would do is square root, and we would get n equal. The square root of 1 is not only a positive 1, it's also a negative 1. That's all you have to do. So technically, this parabola would do this, okay? And it would cross at negative 1 and positive 1, okay? That's what that parabola would do. Let's go to number 3. X squared equals 81. You'll square root both sides. X would equal to a positive or negative 9. This is a piece of cake. This means the parabola will cross the x-axis. If I did this, we'll cross the x-axis at positive 9 and negative 9, okay? This number right here would be negative 81. If we moved it over, that would be our C term, wouldn't it? Piece of cake. That's all you're doing. So you're taking the square root and you're writing down the number as a plus and minus. If the square root's not perfect, you got to simplify that square root like you were taught to. This one right here, notice we got to get the v squared by itself. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 6. I'll get v squared equals, this will turn into a positive, and then 72, right? So I'm going to square root both sides. Now then on this one here, I might have to hit menu 2, 3 factor, right? Or menu 2, 3, 72, enter. If I do that, I'm going to get 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. We will not make this a decimal. So we could take a 2 out and a 3 out, right? So v will equal plus or minus. I could get 2 times 3 is 6, the square root of 2. This is the exact answer of where the parabola will cross the x-axis. So this is going to be tricky here because you're going to have to use the calculator to get these numbers if it won't simplify. Do not make these decimals. Simplify it down and write it as perfect squares, okay? On the next one, we're going to divide both sides by negative 6. I'll get x squared equals negative 1. This problem right here, you can't get the square root of negative 1, can you? So the answer will be no solution. Now then, what happens on this? Draw this parabola. If I were to move this 1 over, I would get x squared plus 1 equals 0, wouldn't I? The parabola will do this. It will not cross the x-axis, will it? So the y-intercept is a positive 1 in it, and it doesn't cross the x-axis, so there's no solution. Let's go down to number 9. We need to get the a all by itself, so we're going to divide by negative 4. We'll get a squared equals a positive 4, square root, the square root of 4 is 2 in it. So a would equal to a plus or minus 2. Piece of cake. Let's keep going. Turn the page. On this problem here, we're going to have to move the 10 over, aren't we? We're not going to divide, we're going to subtract 10, aren't we? So we'll get n squared equals 16. Square root, square root. The square root of 16 is 4 in it. So n will equal to plus or minus 4. So this parabola will go like this, and it'll cross at a positive 4 and a negative 4. The next problem, on this one here, we're going to have to move over the 4 and then divide, aren't we? So let's move over the 4. We'll get 9n squared equals 693. And then we'll divide by 9. And we'll get n squared equals, this is going to be, goes into 69 7 times, and then 77. Then I'm going to square root, and I'm going to get n equals 77 is 7 times 11. You can't simplify. So you write your answer as plus or minus the square root of 77. That will be the exact answer, okay? Let's keep going. Number 15, we're going to move over the 10. So minus 10. I'll get 4b squared equals negative 31. Divide by 4. And I'll get b squared equals negative 31 over 4. Now then, when you do this, you're going to square root the top, or I'm sorry, this right here, we're getting the square root of a negative number, aren't we? So let me write down b squared equals negative 31 over 4. I'm going to square root both sides. I cannot get the square root of a negative number, can I? So this would be no solution. Okay. Piece of cake, not hard. If that term on the right is negative, the answer will be no solution. And lastly, 17, we're going to move over the 2. Subtract 2. We'll get 6x squared equals 24. Divide by 6. We'll get x squared equals 4. Square root, square root. X is going to be a plus or minus 2 in it. Those will be the zeros. Make sure I did this one right. Yeah, it'll be a negative. Number 19, piece of cake. Isn't this fun? Oh. Move over the 2. So we'll get 9x squared equals 225. Divide by 9. We'll get x squared equals 25. That's a perfect squared. It's square root, square root. X is going to equal to a plus or minus 5. So at plus and minus 5, the parabola will cross the square root. Okay. Number 21. Last one we'll do together. Move over the 7. We'll get 64p squared equals 9. Divide by 64. This is going to look freaky. So p squared equals 9 over 64. First time y'all probably done this. Square root both sides. So p is going to end up equaling the square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 64 is 8. And put plus or minus. And this right here would be the answer, wouldn't it? Okay, you're going to repeat the process with the evens. Okay, this only works if the bx term is not in the equation. So if you have x squared and a constant, you'll solve for the x squared term, square root both sides, and the answer will be a plus or minus. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Remember, you are amazing. You are created to do wonderful things, and you are awesome.